I never thought I'd be that woman. The one who throws away a good man because she got bored. But here I am. My name is Courtney. I'm 34, and I'm alone. It started so perfectly. 7 years ago, Mark and I met at a friend's party. He was charming, funny, and actually listened when I talked. Not like the other guys I dated who just waited for their turn to speak. Mark asked questions about my life, my dreams, even my stupid fear of clowns. He remembered everything. We married a year later. Everything was great for the first few years. Mark worked in some kind of business development. I never really understood what he did exactly. And I was in marketing. We made good money, bought a nice house, and started planning for kids. But then Mark decided to work on himself. That's when everything changed. He started going to therapy, which I guess is fine. But then he began setting all these boundaries. Suddenly it was, I need space to process or I can't talk about this right now. What kind of husband says that? We're supposed to share everything. The first real sign of trouble was when I wanted to buy this expensive designer purse. Mark said we should discuss it first, since it was over $500. Excuse me? I make my own money. I shouldn't need permission to buy something with my own salary. It's not about permission, he said, using that calm voice he learned in therapy. It's about making financial decisions together, as a couple. I bought the purse anyway. What was he going to do? Divorce me over it. Around the same time, Mark started going to the gym 5 days a week. He got in really good shape, which was great at first, but then he wanted me to go with him. I hate working out. I've always hated it. Why would I start now? We could do it together, he suggested. It might be fun. I don't need to change my body for anyone. I snapped. You should love me as I am. That's not what I meant, he said, but I could tell he was disappointed. Things got worse when Mark reconnected with some old college friends. They were all into hiking and camping and outdoorsy stuff. Mark started going on weekend trips with them, leaving me alone. When I complained, he said I was welcome to join them. I don't like camping, I said. Bugs and dirt and no proper bathroom? No thanks. Sometimes it's good to try new things, he replied, which just pissed me off more. Then came the worst part. Mark decided he wanted to switch careers. Something about finding more fulfillment. He went back to school part-time to study environmental science. Suddenly, our evenings were spent with his face buried in textbooks instead of paying attention to me. Don't you think this is a little selfish? I asked one night. You're taking on all this debt and time when we should be saving for a house and starting a family. I thought we agreed we'd support each other's goals, he said, looking hurt. Yeah, but realistic goals, I shot back. Not some midlife crisis career change. That's when I met Jason. He worked in the same building as me. In finance? Charming? Successful. And most importantly, he paid attention to me, really paid attention. Unlike Mark, who was always working on himself or setting boundaries, Jason made me feel special. He noticed when I changed my hair or bought a new outfit. He complimented me constantly. Mark used to do that. But lately he was too busy with his schoolwork, or his therapy homework, or his new friends. Jason and I started having lunch together. Just innocent at first. Then we began texting after work. Nothing inappropriate. Just friendly conversation. Mark noticed I was happier. You seem different lately, he said one evening. Different how? I asked. Defensive immediately. Just lighter, he said. It's nice. If he had been paying attention all along, maybe I wouldn't have needed someone else to make me feel noticed. The first time Jason and I kissed was at a work happy hour. We'd both had a few drinks, and he walked me to my car. The kiss just happened, and it felt good. Really good. I felt guilty afterward. But then I remembered how Mark had been neglecting me, how he cared more about his new friends and his new career path than about our marriage. Jason made me feel alive again. He listened to me. Really listened. He didn't talk about boundaries or processing his feelings. He just made me feel desired and beautiful. Mark, meanwhile, was getting more distant. He was always studying or exercising or meeting with his new friends. When we did spend time together, he seemed distracted. One night, I tried to initiate sex. Mark actually said, I'm not really in the mood tonight. I have a big exam tomorrow. What kind of husband turns down his wife? Especially when I look like I do. I can't believe you, I said, hurt and angry. It's not about you, he said, using that therapist voice again. I'm just stressed and tired. That's when I knew something had to change. I couldn't live like this anymore, married to someone who didn't appreciate me. Jason and I started meeting up outside of work. We'd go for coffee or drinks, always careful not to be seen by anyone we knew. The thrill of it was intoxicating. Mark was so wrapped up in his own world that he didn't even notice. He'd come home from class or the gym and barely ask about my day. How was your day? He'd ask, but not really listen to the answer. Meanwhile, Jason hung on my every word. He remembered details about my life that Mark had forgotten. Things came to a head when Mark suggested we go to couples counseling. I think we're drifting apart, he said one night. I want us to work on our connection. I almost laughed. He was just now noticing we had problems. I don't think we need counseling, I said. We just need to spend more quality time together. I agree, he said. That's what I'm suggesting. But I knew what would happen. The therapist would take his side, just like everyone else did. They'd tell me I wasn't being supportive enough of his growth journey. Jason and I talked about leaving our partners. He was in a relationship too, though not married. We dreamed about being together without all the secrecy and lies. I can't wait until we can be together properly, he said one night as we lay in a hotel room. Me neither, I replied, meaning it. The problem was, I didn't want to give up my comfortable life. Mark made good money. We had a beautiful house, and all our friends thought we were the perfect couple. What would people say if I left him? Jason understood my hesitation. Take your time, he said. I'm not going anywhere. But I could tell he was getting impatient. Mark, meanwhile, was getting more suspicious. He started asking questions about where I was going after work, who I was texting, just a friend from work, I'd say, which wasn't exactly a lie. You seem to be spending a lot of time with this friend, he said one evening. We're working on a project together. I lied. Mark looked at me for a long time. Okay, he finally said, but I could tell he didn't believe me. A few days later, I came home to find Mark sitting at the kitchen table, his face pale. We need to talk, he said. My heart started pounding. Did he know? How could he? I got a call today, he began. From my doctor? I froze. What was this about? They found something in my blood work, he continued. Something concerning. I sat down, my mind racing. What could it be? Cancer. Some terminal illness. I have leukemia, he said, his voice cracking. The world seemed to stop. Leukemia? That couldn't be right. Mark was healthy, strong. He went to the gym 5 days a week. Are you sure? I asked. Stupidly. They want to do more tests, he said, but the initial results are pretty clear. I didn't know what to say. I felt guilty about Jason. Guilty about all the times I'd been angry with Mark for neglecting me. Now he was sick, possibly dying. I'll be here for you, I said, meaning it in that moment. Thank you, he said, tears in his eyes. That means a lot. That night, I broke things off with Jason. I can't do this anymore. I told him over the phone. Mark's sick. Really sick. What? Jason asked, shocked. What happened? He has leukemia, I said, the word feeling foreign in my mouth. I'm so sorry, Jason said. But what does that mean for us? For now, it means I need to focus on my husband, I said. There was silence on the other end. I could tell Jason was disappointed, maybe even angry. Call me when you know more, he finally said. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, tests, and treatments. Mark started chemotherapy almost immediately. He was sick all the time, weak and exhausted. I took time off work to care for him. Our friends brought food and offered support. Everyone thought I was such a devoted wife. Sometimes I was. Other times, I resented the hell out of him. This wasn't how my life was supposed to go. I was supposed to be starting a family, not nursing a sick husband who might die. Mark noticed my resentment. You don't have to stay if you don't want to, he said one night after a particularly rough chemo session. What kind of person would I be if I left you now? I asked, though part of me wanted to. Someone who's honest about their feelings. He replied. That was Mark, always so understanding. Even when he had every right to be selfish. Jason texted me occasionally. Checking in, I didn't reply at first. But as the weeks went by and Mark got sicker, I started responding, just friendly texts at first, then flirting, then suggestive messages. I knew it was wrong, but I was miserable. Mark was either too sick to talk or sleeping all the time. I was lonely and scared. One night, after Mark had fallen asleep, I met Jason at a hotel. I've missed you, he said, kissing me. I've missed you too, I admitted. We spent the night together, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel guilty. I felt alive. The next morning, I went home to find Mark awake and sitting at the kitchen table. Where were you? He asked, his voice weak. I just went for a walk. I lied. Needed some fresh air. Mark looked at me for a long time. Okay, he finally said. But I could tell he didn't believe me. Things got worse from there. Mark's treatment wasn't working as well as the doctors had hoped. He was in and out of the hospital, weak and in pain. I was still seeing Jason, though less frequently. I felt terrible about it, but I couldn't stop myself. Jason was my escape from the reality of my life. One afternoon, I came home from work to find Mark packing a bag. What are you doing? I asked. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while, he said, not looking at me. What? Why? Because I know about you and Jason, he said, his voice flat. My blood ran cold. How did he find out? I saw your texts, he continued, and don't bother denying it. I know. I didn't know what to say. I was caught. I'm dying. Courtney, he said, tears in his eyes. And you're cheating on me. How could you? I'm sorry, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I meant it. I need to focus on getting better, he said. I can't do that here. Please don't go. I begged, suddenly terrified of being alone. I have to, he said, zipping up his bag. I'll send for the rest of my things later. And just like that, he was gone. Jason was thrilled when I told him Mark had left. Now we can be together, he said, pulling me into a hug. But things weren't that simple. Mark and I were still married. And he was sick. Really sick. A week after Mark left, I got a call from his sister. He's asking to see you, she said. I don't know if that's a good idea, I replied. He's not doing well. Courtney, she said, the doctors say it's not looking good. I felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I should go see him. Maybe I owed him that much. I went to the hospital the next day. Mark looked terrible thin, pale, hooked up to machines. You came, he said, surprised. Of course I came, I said, taking his hand. It felt cold and frail. We talked for a while about the past, about our marriage, about what went wrong. I know I wasn't always there for you, he said. I was so focused on my own growth that I neglected you. I'm sorry for that. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I'm sorry too, I said, for everything. Mark squeezed my hand. I forgive you, he said. That night, Mark died. I got the call from his sister around 3 a.m. I was devastated and guilty, so incredibly guilty. Jason tried to comfort me, but I pushed him away. How could I have been so selfish? My husband was dying and I was cheating on him. The funeral was a nightmare. Everyone looking at me with pity in their eyes. If they only knew the truth. Mark's sister pulled me aside afterward. He left something for you, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a letter from Mark. My dearest Courtney. It began, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I want you to know that I forgive you for everything. I know our marriage wasn't perfect, and I take responsibility for my part in what went wrong. I hope you can find happiness and peace. Love always. Mark. Tears streamed down my face as I read the letter. He had forgiven me, even after everything I'd done. Jason and I tried to make a go of it after Mark's death, but it was no use. The guilt was too much. And honestly, Jason wasn't as great as I'd built him up to be in my mind. He was selfish and immature, and I realized I had been using him to escape my problems rather than dealing with them. We broke up after 3 months. Now I'm alone, 34 years old, widowed, and starting over. Everyone feels sorry for me. The poor young widow who lost her husband to cancer. If they only knew the truth. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Mark hadn't gotten sick. Would I have left him for Jason? Would we have found a way to work things out? I guess I'll never know. What I do know is that I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. Mark wasn't perfect, but he loved me. He really loved me. And I betrayed him in the worst possible way. People tell me I should move on, that Mark would want me to be happy. But how can I be happy when I know what I did? How can I move on when I have to live with this guilt for the rest of my life? So here I am, alone with my secrets and my regrets. I guess this is my punishment for what I did. And I deserve every bit of it.